Well, that was my next point. We saw in the Financial Times of London 2 weeks ago, or now 3 weeks ago, former top Clinton advisor, also advising Obama, Robert Shapiro, saying, if we don't have an Oklahoma City or a new 9/11 or some big event to make Obama look strong, to make people rally around him, there's going to be a complete sweep of the Democrats. And so they understand that at least short term with the new war, people will rally around the leader, at that sociological, primitive level. And so that's why Ray McGovern and many others, and I guess you're saying the same thing, are saying that this is the prime zone of danger going into November.
Yeah, well, I told, I feel very strongly about this, and you used one of the words that shakes me up completely is this concentration on the word leader. I told this to the junior senator from the Commonwealth of Virginia, where I reside, during the elections, when I was talking to him in a local coffee shop, and he says, well, we've got to, I'll show strong leadership on this. I said to him, Governor, I don't want you to show leadership. I want you to represent me.
Yes.
And I feel very strongly about that.
Because this is a government of we the people and a rule of law in our republic, not Germany or Stalinist Russia or Maoist China. We don't need people to lead us. We need them to represent us.
But we need Homeland Security. Excuse me. That was one of the great shocks to me, is the adoption of that name for a branch of the United States government.
Yeah, for those that don't know, it's in a direct translation of Reich security. The Germans just put the words backwards, or from their perspective, correctly. So land security, or Reich meaning the homeland security. We now have homeland security. Yeah, and it's this is a long-term trend. As you know, many comments are made on this all the time. Especially, I guess I could classify you as a libertarian, and the constant comment, and it's something that worried me for a long time, both as an academic and in government, is this constant expansion of executive authority, particularly in the one area where the drafters of our Constitution were most concerned, which was going to war. And putting that power in the hands of the Congress and not of the executive. And, as we saw in the aftermath of Vietnam, one of the great fold-ups of the Congress, as far as I'm concerned, was the War Powers Act of 1973, which effectively told the President of the United States, you can go to war anytime you want, just let us know every 6 months how it's going. And that does give you a Führer-type precept. I mean, it's completely the opposite of what our republic was founded on. Well,
I think one could say that, and whatever arguments one wishes to make about the need for strong leadership in the foreign policy area and so forth, is that when you see developing, because of the belief in this hugely magnified national security establishment, the enormous financial costs that go with it. I mean, when you realize that just 2 weeks ago, that the renewed funding for the war in Afghanistan was put through, an additional $30 billion, and that's just for the part of it. And incidentally, if you go back to that House resolution on that, you'll find that the actual title of it is a law to extend certain funding for education and other domestic projects. That, to me, was the height of hypocrisy.
So now it's education to have the biggest war machine the planet's ever seen. Sir, what about staged terror or provocateur actions as a pretext to attack Iran? I mean, we know the CIA has declassified part of the NATO option, Gladio, Ajax, Gulf of Tonkin was a staged event and now declassified.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how much danger are we in, though, for this military-industrial complex to stage events or to let people attack us, open the door as a pretext to expand?
I think all your listeners need to do is go back to the long since declassified information on Operation-Northwoods, which was a program put forward and passed through the Joint Chiefs of Staff and put up to then-President Kennedy, calling for the staging of fake attacks on United States aircraft in the air near Cuba, and even accepting the not military aircraft; these are passenger aircraft, and even accepting the loss of American life as a justification for an open military attack on Cuba. So,
David,
these things have been thought of before, and they've been done before, and I think the purpose of people like yourself as journalists, as broadcasters, to continually bring people.
David, this is so important. We got a break. Do 5 more minutes with us. Final segment with former high-level CIA analyst and whistleblower David-Macmichael. We appreciate his time today. Every time he gets into something really important, we have to go to break, but the breaks are pre-programmed here for our radio affiliates out there. We're getting into Operation-Northwoods, and there's so many other instances of plans and actual events where government staged terror attacks. You have all these private corporate interests. They've gotten away with murder. Now Fox News has Geraldo interviewing Marine Corps colonels, admitting that they're helping grow the opium. And we've always known that they're involved in narcotics trafficking. I mean, there's no end to this evil. And now the banks run the country. They've stolen trillions. They're stealing trillions more. Finishing up with staged terror. I mean, it's pretty clear for me, a student of history and just a layman, but you have a degree, a PhD in history, that going back to Julius Caesar, they used fake crises or hyped crises as a pretext for control. And they've built this huge apparatus that rivals the NKVD in Soviet Russia, and it's all aimed at the American people. Law enforcement sent me the Homeland Security reports. None of this has to do with turbaned men in caves. They're worried about landowners, gun owners, libertarians, conservatives, anti-war people. Your comments on the conversion of America to a police state, if you agree, and false flag terror, sir.
Yeah, well, look, there has been this enormous elaboration of and again, the term security comes in there. There are security firms, et cetera, that make money off this. Among the more interesting phenomena, if you will, of recent years in this country has been you talked about privatization and these military and intelligence operations, but the privatization of the prison system, which gives an immense incentive for the Correctional Corporation of America, that's the biggest firm, and others that are in there, to push for legislation that keeps more people locked up, and thus more money coming into their coffers. So yes, this is a, if you will, police state magnification of powers of the so-called security elements, and the combination, of course, of local security into the national apparatus, and it's an unfortunate circumstance. I'm going to give you one more almost Northwoods related thing for you in terms of the way covert operations work in these circumstances. Years ago, after the Castro Revolution in Cuba, we arranged with the British Leyland Motor Company, which had big contracts with the new government in Cuba to replace the motor bus system in Cuban cities. So the buses that were delivered to Cuba had been sabotaged to the point where they weren't functioning. And now we're getting quite credible reports out that the nuclear power equipment that Iran is buying from other countries has been, in many cases, effectively sabotaged before it ever reaches Iran. So these are the things that, in my experience over the years, which intelligence, quote unquote intelligence, systems tend to do. And I'll give you, before we leave, a quick definition of covert operations. It was first made official in the Defense Budget Act of 1993. Covert operations are those activities of a military, economic, or political nature carried out by the United States government to influence or control activities in other countries, which are done in such a manner that the participation of the United States is concealed, or if revealed, can, and here's the key phrase, plausibly be denied.
Yes. And finally, sir, I hope to have you back up in the near future. We appreciate your time. 1 minute left. Knowing about Northwoods and Ajax and the rest of it, do you question 9/11 ever?
There's, as a non-scientist, I back out on that one. But, the arguments made about the grave difficulty of, taking down buildings like that through the burning of aviation fuel after a crash is, not too convincing to me. And I'll just close with telling you that back in 1945, when I was a 17-year-old kid working as a longshoreman on the New York waterfront, on the Jersey side, I looked up one morning and saw this big hole in the Empire State Building. You'll remember that was a B-25, which went off course and flew right into the Empire State Building, knocked an immense hole in the building, but it certainly didn't set it on fire and melt it down.
And we see how 9/11 was used to further destroy our freedoms.
Well, freedom, how's the old phrase go? Just another word for nothing left to lose?
Absolutely. David MacMichael, very impressive information. Thank you for spending time with us and your service.